Welcome to this edition of Men Talking Mindfulness with your hosts John McCaskill and Will Schneider. On this show, we focus on helping men and those with men in their lives to unpack some of the complex challenges we face today by leveraging meditation and mindfulness practices. Each discussion is an environment free of judgment and criticism with a focus on vulnerability, authenticity, and inner peace. Let's dig in.
Hey, listen up. Welcome back to the show. Quote, a substantial number of adults in the United States between the ages of 21 and 62 felt anxiety and stress about their personal finances well before the onset of COVID-19 pandemic. Researchers found that financial stress and anxiety are highly linked to low levels of financial literacy, problematic financial behaviors, and decreased financial security. This quote is from FINRA, FINRA.org, which is an investor educational foundation. And so, hey, in today's show, we are here to alleviate your financial stress and increase your financial literacy with our financial advisor guest and my trusted friend, EJ Long, who is president of Long Financial Services. Long Financial Services is an advisory firm providing services through Wealthcare Advisory Partners, LLC. Wealthcare Advisory Partners is a registered investment advisor with the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission who has one goal: to enhance and advance the way investors experience their wealth. So if you need help sorting out your finances and creating wealth, EJ Long and his team at Long Financial are the people you should be working with. Head to, you want to get in touch with them, head to longfg.com. And once again, that's longfg.com to get started. We'll bring up EJ here in a second. Welcome to Men Talking Mindfulness. I'm super stoked for the show today. And as always, there's no show without my BAMF, my brother from another mother, John McCaskill. What's up, John? How are you doing today?
Hey, brother, I'm doing well, man. Looking forward to this show, too. This is always something that's caused me stress and anxiety. And, if you talk to my beautiful bride, she'll tell you that I'm always looking at the numbers. So I'm excited to talk to EJ about this. Also, over and above that, if you're enjoying the show, hey, share it with your friends, your family, your colleagues. Give us a review on the podcast and check us out on YouTube too. We just added a brand new trailer there and we're very excited about that. We're very thankful to the guy who put it together for us, Rich Harris. He put together this amazing trailer and our new intro, which you just heard or saw. And we'll have the new outro at the end of this. All of those are beautiful pieces of art put together by Rich. That's also his voice that you heard at the beginning of this. So very excited about that. Also, for this specific episode, we brought this back to LinkedIn Live because money and business are so intertwined, and we felt the audience on LinkedIn would be very interested in this topic. And then lastly, we've teamed up with our friends at Movement RX to bring you the movement and mindfulness experience, the M2 experience. The M2 experience is specifically designed to show you the unseen habits that you have developed, plus give you tools to improve how your mind and body feel. The next cohort for this M2 experience kicks off May 18th, and this is the last time that you can get it at this price. We're going to have a price increase in the next cohort after this. So check it out at movement-rx.com/MTM, and that MTM has to be lowercase. It is case sensitive. So again, that's movement-rx.com/MTM. All right, let's bring EJ up on the show, and let's get his bio.
Hey, EJ, good to have you, my brother.
How are you guys?
We're doing great. I'm just going to go through your bio a little bit and give you some love, EJ. So our guest, EJ Long, is a Coast Guard veteran who has a Bachelors of Science in Finance from Penn State University. Go State.
Yeah,
he is the president and founder of Long Financial Group. Long Financial manages over $350 million in client assets. And I thought while we're here and I have this opportunity, I just wanted to take a moment and honor you, my friend EJ. EJ and I have been friends for over 20 years. He's been an incredible friend to me. So thank you, EJ. I've watched you climb to the top of the financial advisory world with grace and goodness. I need to tell our audience, EJ personifies boldness, fearlessness, kindness, and generosity, and has helped me change my worldview as I emulated and adopted some of his characteristics. EJ, thank you, man. You've been a true inspiration and an influence So I just wanted to. So EJ, again, thank you for being my friend all these years.
You're welcome.
And for
You're
the
welcome.
person
And,
that you are.
listen, you've also done some stuff for me. You've gotten me centered and grounded over the years, and I appreciate that also.
Awesome. Well, thanks, man. I'm so glad you're here today. It's great. I'm really been wanting to have this conversation for a while because, finances is, something I struggle with sometimes and a lot of other people struggle with. We just heard John talk about that a little bit early. So I thought we'd just kind of, if you want to give us a little more background about yourself, EJ, might be helpful.
Hey,
and then we can kind of dive in.
Let's slow your
Oh,
roll, brother.
wait. I'm getting all excited.
We got to do the opening practice because you are obviously super excited. So
my friend's here.
Let's get focused. Let's get grounded, and then we'll jump into that. Those meaty questions that we all want answered. But let's ground ourselves first. So
thank you, John.
Yeah, my pleasure, brother. I love you, man. Love you. All right. So if you're listening, if you're watching, go ahead and get into a comfortable position and whatever is safe for you. And let's bring our attention to our breath, not feeling a need to force anything, but just paying attention to the breath, noticing the rising and falling of your diaphragm and how that expands your belly and your chest as your lungs expand when you breathe in, and as your lungs contract as you breathe out. And notice the physical sensations of that. Actually pay attention to that. Tune out the noise of the world and just be present right here, right now, paying attention to nothing else besides your breath, the physical sensations of that. Notice where the air is coming into your body, how that feels, and how the air feels as it exits your body and where it exits your body. And just be quiet. Sit quietly for a few seconds. Again, paying attention to the breath. Now we'll wrap it up with one deep cleansing breath together. Begin by letting out as much air as you can, bringing your navel to your spine. Nice deep breath in through your nose if you're able. Holding at the top and relax, letting it go nice and slow, slow, slow. Now bring some movement back into your body. And let's get ready for the show. Here we go. Back over to you, Will.
Hey, EJ, once again, thank you. If you want to maybe give us a little more of a backstory, if you like, about yourself, how you got into what you're doing.
Before I jump into that, while we were doing that, it was interesting because, as I was supposed to be, relaxing and not focusing, I came up with something during that meditation. The market is pretty crazy right now, and it's nuts, and a lot of people are wondering what's going on and reaching out and calling my office, and I kind of say to them, find your center. It's not, the markets aren't your financial world. Your financial world is your own financial world, and you have to kind of at some point tune it out. And, you have to make sure that what you're doing in your financial world is proper and tune out the noise. And a lot of what's happening right now, although is concerning, is just noise because it doesn't affect a lot of people that are saving for 3 to 5 or 10 years from now. And, as you center your body, there's nothing different. You center your finances. If you're playing tennis, it's your game. It's not the other person's game. If you're running, it's your race, not everyone else's race. So this centering process that you guys do every show is something that you can practice in all disciplines, not just in, the health of your body. There is a lot of noise in life itself, and it keeps us occupied. Checking your phone every 15 minutes, checking the market every 15 minutes. That's all noise, and you have to tune that out, and you have to learn how to just let it go.
Beautiful tie-in there, EJ, and what I've seen, and I'm sure you've seen this at an exponential level, is that when the market is like that, people sell off, and that just causes even more panic. And I always tell my father, he's got his retirement tied up in the market, and when the market's jumping up and down, he's like, "Well, there goes my retirement." I'm like, "No, it's only going to go if you sell it. You're only going to realize the loss if you sell all that. If you hold on to it, you're going to be fine." Yeah. So that's what we're here to talk about, is that noise in the market, noise in the world, and how the noise in the world affects our financial kind of status and mindset, but also how our mindset can affect our finances. So, yeah.
Well, I think it's also, it can be very emotional, right? And when we're emotional, we don't make our best choices. And if you're just like watching the market tank like another 1,000 points like it did yesterday, and you're like, "Oh my God, my money!" It's like, where are you making that decision from? Yeah. And is that something that you help your clients with, like understanding that emotional regulation and not making those choices? And
yeah. So we'll jump back to my bio is in how I got into this. And helping people is I watched my father do this for a living for the majority of his life. I spent a lot of time in his office in middle school and in high school, and I got accustomed to the business and understanding people's feelings and understanding the emotion behind money. Money is extremely emotional. It is probably one of the emotional things I have seen in my life that people really take it to heart. So after high school, I went into the Coast Guard. I would say, jokingly, more of maturity. I went into the Coast Guard, or lack of maturity. I just don't think I was ready for college, and I'm glad I did that, because as John will tell you, the military provides a tear down process. It brings everyone down to the same level, and then brings you up slowly and teaches you how to understand your feelings, your emotions, your physical strengths, your physical weaknesses, what you can handle, what you can't handle. And they test you consistently to build a better person, so to speak. And after the military, I went to Boston to work for a company called Putnam Mutual Funds, spent some time there, then moved to Philadelphia, worked for a bank. And then in 1998, started my practice with about $13 million in assets under management. And we've grown that to close to $400 million. And it's been 25 years since I've been doing this, and it's been a great journey. I've met an amazing group of people. I have an amazing staff. And I've been to bar mitzvahs, weddings, funerals, graduations, baptisms, everything for all of my clients. They've become close friends and allies of mine. And it's been a great run.
How important is that, being an advisor and having that relationship, with your customers and with your clients? Because there's money. There's a lot of trust involved, and it's like, how do you go about like fostering that and making that happen?
I think that I find, and I'm sure you find in your business, Will, is that education or educating somebody makes them a better client. A client that knows nothing about the market or nothing about money or doesn't want to know anything about money is like someone showing up to yoga once or showing up to the gym because it's January 1st and they think that's the thing to do. Mm-hmm. You have to be involved and a better educated. Why are we doing this exercise? Why are we breathing? What's the result? The understanding of money and the client understanding of money, there's a level of trust that they give me, but then there's a level of understanding that I try to teach them. And by teaching them the level of understanding, they become better clients. Right. Because they know that they're starting at point A and they're starting at point B. And if I can tell them how we're going to get there and they understand it, the journey is a little bit better. When I take my little kids in the car, I say, hey, we're going here on a trip. It's 3 hours. They're like, are we stopping anywhere? If I can create a narrative for them, we're going to stop here. We're going to stop and see this person. They understand the trip, and they versus every 15 minutes. When are we going to get there? When are we going to get there? When are we going to get there? I think the understanding and the teaching and the education process is what I like most about it.
Yeah, that sounds like a great approach for sure.
I definitely value that. Like, I remember I was listening to a financial management show. I used to listen to them on the drive in, and I was managing all my own finances, and I was not doing well. And I remember one of the shows, it said, who manages your finances? If it's you, fire your financial manager and hire a professional. And I did. I went out. One, I fired myself, and then two, I went and hired a professional. And there's this feeling that when you go and talk to a financial manager or a financial advisor, that they're going to want to sell you something right off the bat. And I understand that's part of the process, but there's like the guy that I met with, he didn't sell us anything. He went through our finances, showed us where we could budget better, introduced us to a budgeting system, and really, for the first like 6 or 7 times we met him, didn't ever say, okay, well, let's look at insurance. Let's look at this, and this. Yeah. He was like, hey, let's just get your finances in order.
Yep.
And that established the trust.
Yeah.
And that in itself alleviated a huge amount of financial stress on me, on my family. And then since then, giving him kind of that trust, and then learning from him, like you said, that process of the learning, that has been huge to establish further trust. And now I feel comfortable in everything that we do with our finances through him. It's incredibly important to know, trust, and like your financial advisor or manager, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think when you meet with an advisor, I think it's easy to find out if they're a used car salesman. I think, like what you said, there's a process. It's like anything else. When you hire a personal trainer or when you hire a contractor, if you can sniff it out, you can sniff it out. And, when a contractor shows up and says, hey, I'll start tomorrow, I want 75% of the money now, that's a red flag. A contractor, if a contractor is a good contractor and they do good work, they'll take money up for front for the materials, they'll do the work, and they'll get paid as they finish. And when they finish, they'll get the rest of the bill. You've heard the stories where the contractor shows up, he gets paid, he never shows up again. And I think when you meet with a financial advisor, there's that level of trust that has to be established. And it has to be established through a process. Where are you today, and where are you? Where do you want to go tomorrow? And then where do you want to go the next day? And I think building that process, as your advisor did, establishes that trust, and then you can move forward with that person.
Right.
And what is like, so, as an advisor, like what are you trying to create, for your clients? Like, what is the ultimate goal, or is it up to them, or how do you take that trust? How do you take their money, and then, what direction you kind of go?
So finance is interesting. It's no different than anything else. It's no different than getting up and meditating 10 minutes in the morning. It's no different than going to the gym 3 times a week. It's no different than eating, your greens, doing what you're supposed to do to keep yourself healthy. Finance is in the simplest form is just good habits. And if you establish those habits and you abide by those habits, I come home, I take my shoes off, I put them by the door. My wife's like, why can't you put them in the closet? It's because my habit is to take them off at the door. So if you set yourself up on a budget or on a habit, and you live within your means, and I use a process called 80-10-10. It doesn't matter what you make a month in income, whether you make $1,000 a month in income or $100,000 a month in income. If you spend 80% of your money and you save 10% for the midterm and 10% for the long term, sheer luck will get you where you want to go. If you get up and you're training for a marathon and you run a couple miles every single day for 3 months, you'll finish the marathon. Anyone can do it. But if you want to finish the marathon at the best time that you can possibly do for your age bracket, you want to follow a Runner's World type process. And they have it dialed in, what you should eat every day, how many miles you should run, what speed training. Finance is no different. If you spend 80% of your money and you save 20% of your money and you do that every month, you'll become financially successful. But there's intricacies along the way that you can change to make yourself even more financially successful. And those intricacies are what financial advisors help you with. They try to point you in the right direction, as would a trainer at the gym training for a marathon. They'll point you in the direction to get your best time, your best financial goals. And most of that is, like I said at the beginning, is good habits.
Yeah. And, the habits, the good habits, but also highlighting the bad habits, making somebody recognize the bad habits. This one right here is one of them, right?
Yeah,
like
sure.
The coffee a day.
If you Google Starbucks coffee a day, $1 million, it will bring up a person that wrote a quasi white paper that says, if you spend $350 on a coffee every day for your entire career, it's $1 million in the bank if it was invested properly.
That's crazy. That's crazy. But that's a bad habit, right? That's, we convince ourselves that we don't have enough money to invest, but yet we'll buy a coffee every day that costs $5.
Yeah.
That in 1 month, that's $150.
Yeah. So. But there are certain things, if you are doing all the other good habits, like saving 20% and spending 80%, and part of that 80% is the Starbucks, that's fine. It's where the people that are making $1,000 a month and spending 99% of it, and that's where, 99 and saving 1%, that is not a good habit. So if that Starbucks is in the 80%, you can have those luxuries. I joke with Will all the time, because he has a 6-pack, that he can eat 5 pieces of pizza on a Friday night, and I can do it, and I can't get a 6-pack, and he can. And because he's disciplined Saturday through Thursday. True. And I'm not. I'm disciplined, Monday through Wednesday. And so it's the habit. The habit's not there. It just doesn't work. And I laugh because I only see him on the weekends, and he'll eat just like I will. And I'll be like, how come I don't look like him? And it's just because on Sunday he goes back to, right back to that line. And I still, drift over the line all the time.
Yeah. So for our younger listeners, like people like 22 to 30, it's like, so what, how do they start those habits? Like, where do they start investing? Like, what if you're in, younger and you're hearing this broadcast and you're like, I really would like to set myself up more successfully financially in the future. It's like, what are a couple places to start, or where's the best place to start?
Yep. So there are so many financial sites out there. There's so many things to do. I always recommend asking parents, senior level people at the firm you're working at or the place you're working at that have financial advisors, to get introduced to somebody. A lot of financial advisors have minimums, so it's harder for younger people to get involved. Plus, the industry is changing rapidly, where a lot of the industry is pushing for the higher net worth people, and the lower net worth people are getting pushed aside. But the simplest thing is if that person that we're talking about, that younger person that's listening to this podcast, makes a dollar amount per month, whatever that dollar amount is, it's $1,000 a month, if it's $4,000 a month, if it's $6,000 a month, it doesn't matter. 80% of your money, you can spend it. 20% of your money, you have to save it. The majority of people have some type of retirement plan at work, 10% in long-term, which is retirement, and then 10% somewhere else, and 80% of it's spent. So if you just set up those 3 disciplined buckets and consistently work on those buckets and never veer off the track, no matter what's happening, then usually that will create financial success very quickly. We have large numbers of children that are descendants of wealthier clients that have started saving when they've got out of college. And we have people in their mid-20s, approaching, $100, $200, $250,000 in saved assets because they've started when their summer jobs were in high school and they started putting a little bit of money away each month. And, you know, I use this jokingly, but you can't fill a bucket overnight with money. The only way to fill a bucket with money is to throw $1 in the bucket every day or every month, or $3 every day for a Starbucks in a bucket. And if you do that, the bucket eventually will be filled up. I don't care who you are. If you keep throwing something in a bucket, it will fill itself up. And so creating those disciplined buckets of short-term, midterm, and long-term really is the backbone of financial planning and financial savings.
And then we're like, what are some good places to put that bucket? You know what I mean? Like, because you can make your money work for you in the sense of like, you know, gaining interest or putting in the market, like, you know.
Yeah, I mean, investigating mutual funds and ETFs and certain types of investments that have some liquidity and some safety that pay some interest. You know, that's where the financial advisor comes into play, and we'll sit down and tailor stuff towards your recommendation. Remember, every single person that we're talking to in this podcast has a different financial layout or a different financial blackboard, so to speak. They either make too much money, not enough money. They have high rent, they have low rent, they have student loans, they have inheritance, they don't have inheritance. You know, there's all these different things. And what a financial advisor should do, as John mentioned, is do a fact find and do an investigation and ask that person. You know, the doctor, when a doctor comes in and sees you, the first thing they do is ABC, airway, breathing, and circulatory. You know, they check your pulse, they check your breathing, they put the thing on the stethoscope on your chest. A financial advisor is doing the same exact thing, except they are doing it with your money. You know, how much money do you make? Where do you spend your money? You know, where do you want to be in a year? Where do you want to be in 2 years? And all of that is put into a plan. And then the advisor will recommend where to invest that money. You know, most of the time, like I said, 90% of the people that we talk to have mutual funds, have ETFs, you know, own individual stocks. One thing that I have seen over the last 2 years during COVID is a lot of people have opened up their own accounts and started buying and selling stocks because it was relatively easy to make money in the last 2 years. The market kind of went up every day. And now a lot of those people have abandoned those accounts because they are not making money. They are losing money and they don't know why they're losing money. Well, the reason they're losing money is because they don't know why they purchased that stock in the first place. They only bought that investment to make money. They don't know why they bought it. They bought it because their friend said it was a good company. They bought it because Bitcoin was going up, whatever. They didn't understand why they were doing it. And, you know, think of someone that goes to the gym and looks at a machine and says, oh, the machine's got a picture on it. It says to pull down on this and I'll pull down on it. But they don't know what that machine is actually doing for them. And they don't know if they're doing it properly, if they're jerking the bar too much, if they're not in the right position. And so what happened over the last 2 years is all of these people opened up these discount brokerage accounts and went out and started buying everything because everything was making money. And now nothing is making money. So they just abandon it and they abandon the financial plan. And the reason is because they didn't have a financial plan. They were just buying something to buy it because it was in fuego, so to speak.
I mean, so this really is coming down to that financial literacy as well as like having a technique. You know what I mean? You mentioned kind of being at the gym. There's a reason behind, you know, and getting deeper in to that reasoning. It's like, so, you know, if someone needs to increase their financial literacy, like, you know, do you work with it, speak with an advisor, or is there places that you can kind of go and search this information out?
Yeah, there is. I mean, like I said, interviewing some of your friends, family, and colleagues to get an advisor, there's tons of information online, just like anything else. I mean, John will tell you, John and I have done probably 1 million push-ups in our lifetime. We both went to boot camp, and there's a proper way to do a push-up and there's a wrong way to do a push-up. And
that must have been in your 20s there, EJ. When's the last time you did a push-up, dude? I'm just I was just fucking around.
I did a bunch of push-ups this morning. I'm sore.
No,
There you go. Good man.
I'm sorry. I don't mean to wreck
I'll
you.
get down and do them right now if you want.
No. It's okay.
So, but no, there's a lot of places that you can do this. There's a lot of information online, and there are, believe it or not, there are successful people who do their own financing. There are successful people that go to the gym and train by themselves. There are successful marathon runners that train by themselves. But it's a discipline. You have to be engaged in it. You can't just open an account, buy XYZ stock and think that's my financial plan. I can't go to Foot Locker, buy a pair of running shoes and go out and run a marathon tomorrow. It just doesn't work that way. Just like anything else, I can't just go. I like to drive cars and track cars and motorcycles and stuff. Sure, you can go out and buy a Porsche and take it on the track. But what do they do with you when you go to a track day is you have to ride with an instructor for an extended period of time before they let you track without it. Because just because you have the money to buy the Porsche to put on the track doesn't mean that you know how to drive the car.
Right.
And just because you can open an account and buy Bitcoin doesn't mean that Bitcoin is the best investment. It could be the best investment or part of your plan, but it's not just because you can do it. It's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
So education, as we stated at the beginning of this conversation, education is the key to this. It's the most important thing.
We'll talk about education.
And you said in the beginning, Will, is that financial literacy is lacking in this country. They don't teach it in school anymore. They don't teach it in high school. When you were in high school, they used to teach typing and business and stuff. Exactly. With my parent, they don't teach any of that stuff anymore. Because the reason is big finance really do not want you to understand it, because they want you to pay 23% on your credit card. They want you to finance a car for 7 or 8 years. Right. They want you to pay private mortgage insurance on your mortgage because they all make money at that. Yeah. And so education, whether it be at the middle school or high school or college level, should be mandated in this country.
Well, I just, to come back to speak to that, I just saw that Georgia, I think, was the first state in the union to mandate financial education in their education system in the state, which is like a great start. I mean, it's like, how much is that going to help, really change this conversation that we're having, or like that stress that we're kind of, alluding to here. So last question about being a younger man. It's like, if you were to go back, and talk to your 22 or 24, 25-year-old self, from what all the experience you've had, what would be something that you would advise yourself, your younger self, if you would?
The number one and only thing in the financial world is, I wish I started earlier. And I look at kids today that start early and they're in their 20s with $250,000 saved. And I look at where I was at 25. I was making good money, but I certainly didn't have that kind of money saved because I was still living not the 80-10-10 lifestyle.
Right.
I was living the 90-10 lifestyle or the 95-5 lifestyle. And
worse, 105% spent on the credit cards, right?
And that's a lot of the case. And I'm going to say this jokingly, but when husband and wife come in my office, there's only really 3 types. They're both spenders. One's a spender and in charge of and the other one's a saver and in charge of the money, or they're both savers. I mean, that's really the mix. And in a marriage or in a relationship, the only thing we fight about is kids, sex, and money. That's it. If you took away those 3 things, you would never fight. And so, but no, I mean, it's the truth. And when I say that to a client sitting across the desk that I've just met, they look at me like, I can't believe you just said sex. And I'm like,
I mentioned you're bold, brother. You're bold.
Yeah. And I'm like, wait a minute. You are married and you are sitting here with a 2-year-old. So I'm assuming you had sex and I'm assuming, you're married. So they're the only real 3 things that you fight about. and if you can take one of those things out of the equation and set up good habits where you don't have to worry about money or fight about money, and it doesn't matter if you make 50 grand a year or 500 grand a year, if you live within your means and you set up the good habits and budget, the money topic or the money fight comes off the table.
Yeah. And it might lead to better sex.
Yeah. And then the kids, and the only way to get the kids part off the table is, wait till they're 18 and out of the house. And then, you don't even know if they're still a problem.
Yeah. And hopefully you open a fund for them so they have a little bit of money. So they're not knocking on your door or mommy and daddy, like, give me some money, give me some money.
Wow. Oh, that actually leads me to a question about saving for your kids, right? Like, what is it? The 529 is the fund for college, right?
Yeah.
What is your recommendation on saving for kids' college or not? And if so, what do you believe is the best vehicle for that?
So this is a topic that is, very controversial, and I'll tell you why. College today is different than college was when I went. I'm 51 years old. I think I paid $89 a credit for school. Yeah. It was a joke. You could literally pay for college working a summer job, and you could make $3,000 in a summer as a bartender or a waiter, and you could almost pay for your tuition. Today, college is financially unattainable for most people. And people say, how much should I save for college? And the numbers are roughly, if you want to go to a private school, I live very close to Villanova, the almost national champions this year for basketball.
Oh man, Dr. Teresa Larson's going to love that Villanova just got mentioned on the show.
The almost. So, so the thing is you have to save about $1,700 a month per kid for 18 years to save up enough money to send your child to a Villanova or a Syracuse or an NYU. It's just not in the cards. Most people can't save that. And then if you want a private school or a public school like a Penn State, that's about $700 a month. So I believe that the kids that we have today that are being born today are going to have some type of different educational platform, because you can't afford to spend $300,000 or $400,000 or $500,000 to send someone to school to be a fifth grade math teacher that makes 70 grand a year. It just doesn't, the numbers don't work.
Right.
So the 529 is a tool that's used to save for college that allows for tax-free growth. What I say to parents is discuss amongst yourselves what your goal is for college. Do you want to jeopardize your retirement and your financial future to pay for your kid's entire college? Well, then here, $1,700 a month per kid, 18 years, have at it. And most of them, after a conversation, come back and say, we want to put away a certain dollar amount, and that's what they're going to get.
Right.
But I think the cost of college and the argument of college is going to change. It has to change because it's just become unattainable for a lot of people.
Right.
And I believe that it was the greatest fleecing of America in this country, where colleges and universities convinced baby boomer parents and dual income parents that if you don't send your kids to college, they will amount to nothing.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is when the HVAC guy is at your house and your air conditioning is broken, he says it's $600. You don't argue, you just write him a check. And so when you find out today that a plumber, an electrician, an HVAC person is making $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 a year, you realize that college isn't the only answer anymore. Yeah. In fact, the fact that college was convinced people to take all these loans out and push kids through school is probably not the best way anymore. There are other ways to do it.
Yeah. And we're coming up against an interesting time as well, like that, I feel automation and the influx of automation into the workforce is going to kind of change that HVACs, sure. thing where, so we're really in a very interesting time as far as, because I have relatives, family members that I don't have my own kids yet, but it's like, it's like you're towing that line. It's like, do you go and get an education, college education, and make a little more money, but then you're kind of slave to the system in some ways because you have all this debt to pay, so you can't really, go out and really find who you are because you have like absorbent like monthly college bills, and it's a really fascinating time to see, what our education is going to look like, what the workforce is going to look like in the next, even 10 years. I think everything that the way that we've been organizing as a society over the last like 60s or 70 years is going to radically change in the next 10.
I mean, think about this. You can graduate high school on Monday and within 2 years be making over $100,000 a year doing a trade, while your friends are $200,000 in debt and still have 2 years left in college.
Yeah.
I mean, a crane operator in New York City makes probably $150,000 to $175,000 a year. When's the last time a plumber came to your house when you had a leak and you didn't pay the bill? I mean, what you're at his mercy. You're at the mercy of those people, and they're highly trained, highly technical jobs these days. It's not, it's not the HVAC of the old. Everything is Wi-Fi and censored and humidifiers, and it's a different world today. It's a highly technical world, especially with automobiles. You can't fix a car today with a screwdriver and a hammer.
That's true.
You open the hood of a 1965 GTO, you can fix it with 3 tools. It doesn't work that way today.
What you mentioned there, EJ's, if you do go to a trade school and you spend 2 years in that trade school and now you're making 100, 150K, you can start earlier, way earlier, and saving.
You can start 6 to 7 years earlier, because when you get out of college, you're making a $1,200 to $1,300 or $1,400 a month loan payment. You're making a mortgage payment the day you graduate.
Right.
And the person, your best friend who went to plumbing school, is rolling around in a brand new F-150 making $100,000 a year.
There you go.
And has no debt. So the college thing is a very, very difficult discussion to have because we all want the best for our children. But the problem is what is the right direction?
Yeah.
And how do you find it? And I think that's a discussion you have to have with your spouse and or your partner, and you have to figure it out.
Yeah. I mean, I think one thing that I know we're getting off track here a little bit, but the last thing I'll say is one thing we went to college. Like, I'm 49, you're 51, John's 47, and John went to, school through the military, right? 44. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry,
I
John.
look older. I look, right? It's because
I didn't realize you're so sensitive. I didn't realize you're so sensitive about
John,
your age.
how many push-ups can you do?
Well, not a whole lot these days.
But it's like, I think there's an importance to learn to think, and that's what really college helped me to do. It helped me to write, it helped me to critically think, and we'll see where those skills are going to take us in the future. But John, I know you have. Let's move on, John. What do you think?
Yeah, I want to. We've talked about the college and we talked about kids. I kind of want to flip that, right, for our kids. What about planning for end of life, right? So that's a stressor for our children, or if it's not our children, it's somebody who's going to end up helping with our estate afterwards. What should we be doing for planning for retirement first and then for end of life?
So there's a lot of different things that you can do, and end of life is again difficult to predict because a lot of the products that you buy that are actually sold to you, such as long-term care and such, are expensive products. And you end up paying them for a very long time, and you might not end up using them. So I have a controversial opinion when it comes to long-term care. But long-term care essentially will pay a daily rate to take care of you in a facility, if you're incapacitated. And there's basically these 6 daily living tasks that you have to complete. If any one of those If you start to lose a few of those, then this long-term care policy will kick in. So for instance, if you can't toilet yourself, if you can't feed yourself, if you can't dress yourself, once some of those kick in, the long-term care policy kicks in and takes care of end of life. End of life is a big thing right now. So when you sit with a financial advisor, there are things that will be recommended to you, like long-term care insurance, like a life insurance that mocks itself as a long-term care policy. So remember, there's two ways to get money, or there's only one way to get money out of a life insurance policy: die. But a lot of these life insurance policies now say, well, wait a minute, we know you're going to die. I mean, that's guaranteed. So we'll also give you your money early if you go into a long-term care facility. So a true long-term care policy, you might pay on this policy for 10 or 20 or 25 years. And then all of a sudden you go in, you die, you drop dead of a heart attack, and all of that money is wasted. So for instance, you pay a homeowner's policy on your house for 40 years and you never turn in a claim. It was essentially a waste of money. But if the roof blew off, you'd want that policy. So there are a lot of costs that go into buying long-term care or end-of-life type policies or insurance. And so all I say is, talk through them with your financial advisor. Find out the one that's the most cost effective. Average stay in a nursing home before death is 3.5 years.
Wow.
I've seen people in dementia wards that are in there 10 years, at a cost of $8,000, $9,000 a month. So the costs are real and they're there. The question is how do we pay for them? And there are many ways to pay for them. If you have a pension, your pension can pay for them. You can use that income to pay for them. You could buy a long-term care policy. You could buy a life insurance policy with a long-term care rider on it. There are many different ways, and you just have to be careful, because a lot of times these are, as you mentioned in the beginning, John, these are products that are sold. And there are products that pay a commission. So every time you buy something, there's a commission generated. So you want to make sure what you're buying is the proper product. And it's one of those things where you get a second opinion on it, because every advisor has a different way of running that end of life scenario. I gear my stuff more towards buy a life insurance policy when you're in your 30s or 40s that last until you're 95 or 100, that has some type of rider on it that provides for end of life. I'm more geared towards doing it that way than doing it other ways. But there are 6 ways to skin that cat.
Right.
And some people don't even do it. Some people have planned properly where they have enough assets, they have enough money, where that money is generating enough interest every month that it pays the long-term care bill. And there are also different states listening in on the call, but some states have an inheritance tax, and and the federal government has an estate tax. Now, the nice thing about the federal government right now is the estate tax is on money over 11 million. Most people don't have 11 million. And that's 11 for the husband and 11 for the wife. So it's kind of a $22 million number. So the inheritance or the estate tax is kind of not a conversation that we have anymore. And it's kind of funny, because the estate tax used to be $625,000 or more you got a estate tax on. Then it went to $1 million, and then it changed to $5 million. And then there was 1 year where it was unlimited. And guess who died December 25th or something like that in that year? George Steinbrenner.
There you go.
Died in the last, I think it was, and you can correct me if I'm wrong in this, but I think it was the last month of the year. There was only a 1 year period where it was unlimited. You could die with as much money as you wanted to and not have to pay an estate tax. And George Steinbrenner died the last week of the year. And
wow.
Family, billions of
family
dollars
lucked out
with no estate tax. And the joke is that he pulled his own plug.
Yeah, he got snuffed
because he wanted to save the money. And
wow.
Obviously rightfully so. I would have done the same thing. But then it changed, and now it's 11 million, and it's supposed to change in another 2 years. It's going to change, and it's actually going to go lower. So there's two things you worry about at end of life is taxes to your heirs and care for yourself and care for your spouse. And those are burdens that are put on the children because the children have to figure that stuff out. And I can't stress enough to organize everything before that happens. You know, when people come into my office, children, and their parents pass away or stuff, and they have stuff at 5 or 6 different banks, 5 or 6 different financial advisors, stuff is all over the place. It is a daunting task for the children to work through all that.
Wow.
I bet.
Yeah. Thanks. You know, one last question. We're coming close to time right now. And what I'll put out there, like, I know there's so much to cover in this topic. And, you know, I'll put it out to the audience. Like, you know, if you want to hear more, like, I would love to have you back on, EJ, for sure, 100%. And, you know, so we won't, maybe next time we can talk more about specifics like IRAs and this and that and Roth and that kind of thing. I think it'd be helpful to increase that financial literacy that we talked about. But I think, you know, just to ask like one question, you know, like a masculinity question, like, so for the men out there and from your experience, like, what are some of like the hyper masculine norms that kind of get in the way of creating this financial freedom or wealth and this literacy, if you would, if that even exists?
So, and I don't want to offend any women here because I know there's very successful career women out there, but in the past, in Mad Men, back in the day, it was assumed that the husband went to work, the wife stayed home, and the husband was taking care of the finances. And it was, you know, it was being taken care of. And a lot of times there's the stress and there's the lack of education that the husband has, that they didn't understand the process, so they weren't doing it. And, you know, all of a sudden you wake up and you're 60 years old and the wife assumed the husband was taking care of it and they don't have any money. And so that was in the Mad Men era. Now I believe it's more of a joint process for couples. And I believe they both work at it together. I think there is, though, the stress of having to produce and having to save. And I had this conversation with a friend of mine the other day. A lot of us make enough money that affords us a lifestyle that we can have, but we don't make enough money to quit our job because we don't like it. So it kind of has us, it kind of has us tied up. Whereas the job itself, we work there, we make money, and we live a lifestyle. But if we change the job and take something that we really want to do or less stressful, then we can't have the lifestyle. So there's this pressure of we have to keep charging forward, and we have to keep making more and more and more and more and more money. And then when you make more money, the lifestyle increases, and you can never go backwards. You know, and Will, I joke with you all the time. You had an extremely successful career at a big pharmaceutical company, and we were drinking beer one day, and you said, "I quit. I'm going to go teach yoga." And
acting first, yeah. And
I was like, wait a minute, what is this guy doing? I don't get it. And you had the canugs to say to yourself, you know, it's not the money. I don't want the money. I want the enjoyment and the lifestyle. And you were able to take that risk. And I think when you have a family and kids and a spouse and a partner, it makes it more difficult. And there are real financial stresses out there to be able to do something like that. And I envied it. Believe me, there's been times where I wanted to just pack it all in and go to Vermont and live in a farmhouse and work at a ski resort. And it's a decision that you have to make, and it's really, really difficult. So that pressure is real. And that pressure to perform and that pressure to put money away, to save, to be financial, you know, all of that stuff is real, and it's there. And I think what you're seeing now is you're seeing dads that stay home and wives that are the breadwinners. You're seeing now the pressures on the wife. You know, my generation, my parents, it was the dual income parents in the 80s and the 90s. Now I think it's the breadwinner and the non-breadwinner, and the roles are reversing. It's the wife making all the money, the husband sort of has a part-time job and staying home, or vice versa. But it's different today than it was in the 80s and 90s. And these financial pressures, the one thing is men don't talk about them. We don't talk about Bruno. Nobody talks about Bruno. We don't talk about money. You don't come home and you say to your wife, listen, we don't have enough money to go to Disney. You just kind of book the trip to Disney and you go to work and you grind it out.
Yeah, put it on the credit card.
Put it on the credit card.
Yeah, and those are the things that I think that the education process, the communication process between spouses and partners and your financial advisors, I think that's the important thing. And my best clients are where the husband and wife are on the same page. They're both savers. They're both understanding of the money. They both know where the money is.
And they both have good habits. They both have established good habits. Yep.
Exactly.
Wow.
I get up, I go to work out at 5 o'clock in the morning. I come home, my wife goes and works out at 8 o'clock in the morning. So, we both work out. So if we both have good financial habits, it's the same thing. You'll both have good health. You'll both have good financial habits. And I think those stresses are real and they're not talked about.
Yeah, for sure.
Right.
We don't talk about any stressors.
Men are historic for not going to the doctor and getting things checked when they're supposed to get checked. And it's the same with money. They're not going to come home and say that we're having money troubles. We need to conserve. You have to keep the image. You have to keep the hard charging moving forward.
Yeah. Well, I think we'll end on that. And if you're, unless you got something, John, anything?
No, I was just going to say that reminds me I need to set up a doctor's appointment.
Yeah. Well, and I'll tell you what, so I'll close with, if you are one of those men out there that know that you need to have a conversation about finances, then please, hit up EJ, hit up my friend. Obviously you can see the wealth of knowledge that he has, and and just the way you are with people and the education that you can provide and the literacy that we talked about, so if you need to have that conversation, whoever's listening, reach out to EJ at longfg.com is a great way to find him. And EJ, anything before we close?
I'll leave it with one thing. We always want to make the next generation better. Get your kids started early. Buy them a mutual fund. Buy them, Disney. Buy them something that they understand, and show them how it works. Show them what a dividend is. Show them what interest is. Get them started. Don't leave their money sit in a bank account. Get them educated at a young age. My first stock was Pepsi Cola at 6 years old. My dad sat me down at a dining room table and explained the process and how the dividends worked and how it all, accumulated money and the fluctuation. Get your kids started early. A good financial advisor will take a kid and open an account for them because you have an account with them and teach them a little bit about it. And once that kid gets interested in it, you create an animal. You create a person that wants to save. You create a person that understands it. That, we teach our kids to spend. We go to the store every day. We go to Dick's Sporting Goods. We go to Best Buy. We buy them iPods. We buy them pads. We teach them how to spend. We don't even teach them. It just happens because we're spending money every day. Reverse that role. Teach them how to save. Teach them how to invest at a very young age. And they will take that. That is a tool that they can use forever. Just as Will would teach his kids how to breathe and do yoga at a younger age, that will take them through life less stressful. This will do the same.
Wow. That's a great way to end, EJ. Thank you, everybody, for listening. We have a little bit of we'll just do a quick closing practice. Just do a couple breaths to help create a little more clarity, because if you're clouded, your judgment is clouded by financial stress or any kind of stress. That's why we do these practices, to help you understand how you can gain clarity just by taking a few simple breaths and let go of the thinking and the feelings and whatever else is going on in the world around you, in your environment, and get to that clarity, land yourself into the here and now so you can start making better choices like EJ's talking about. So we'll just take a couple moments. If you can sit and close your eyes, or just stop whatever you are, whatever you're doing. Even if you're driving, you can do this. But we can start with let's close the eyes again, if that's available. Exhale the breath out through the mouth. That exhalation, that little audible exhalation helps to release even stress and tension in your face, jaw, and shoulders. Let's greet that with a big inhale through your nose. Let's hold that breath for one moment. Take another little sip of air through the nose. Top it off. And exhale with that gentle sigh out the mouth. Let's do 4 more. In, big breath in. Hold. Second inhale. Exhale out. A few more. In number 2. Out. Good. And 2 more. In again. Out. Something good. We'll do 1 more. In. Out. Awesome. And bring those eyes up when you're ready. And EJ, I'll offer you, maybe you can start doing some breathing practice with your clients. Calm them down a little bit. Anyway, thank you, EJ. Lovely to have you on, man. It's great to have one of my great friends on the show. And I really appreciate taking the time.
Thank you very much, EJ. Very much appreciate
You're very welcome, guys. Push-up contest next show.
There you go.
Got it. All right. No, we're gonna do that. We're gonna do that. Thanks again, everybody.
All right.
Yeah, thanks everyone, to our listeners, our audience. Thanks for joining us. And if you have a chance, share the show again with your colleagues, friends, family, whoever needs to hear it. And until next time, peace.
Peace. Thanks, EJ.
Peace.
Joining us today. We hope you walk away with some new tools and insights to guide you on your life journey. New episodes are being published every week, so please join us again for some meaningful discussion. For more information, please check out mentalkingmindfulness.com.